It's been a tough time for the faithful during COVID. All kinds of restrictions on places of worship from coast to coast, and we don't like it. We're joined by Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco. Welcome back, Archbishop. San Francisco, California, the faithful took it the hardest, or had it the hardest there. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You were a very vocal opponent of the measures taken, and it seemed to be that they were singling out people of faith. Where do things stand right now?
Things have improved. California has the tier system, and things are moving, and most counties, including around here, are moving into the less restrictive tiers. So we're in a much better position now, but I'm still worried about the government placing these restrictions on worship. I think it's more reasonable now with the guidelines they're giving us, we have to follow. But I'm still a little bit concerned of the government taking this action against religious worship rather than giving us guidelines that we have to follow to make sure we keep our people safe while we worship.
I guess I'm looking at Mass being held outside, and I'm seeing some protests. And has this trial strengthened the church? Because when people are under attack, sometimes they come together, and it looks like, wow, look at you all. What was the good, if any, that came from this?
That is definitely what happened. It did bring people together. It was a very unifying moment. I compare this to what we experienced here in California about 2.5 years ago now, when there was an attempt to lift the protection of, we have the seal of confession in the law, it's the penitential communication, right? That is protected by law. There's an attempt to lift that. This is sacrosanct for us. It was another sort of attack on religious freedom. They unify the whole church, in this case, all around the state. In the case of the restrictions on worship, all around the Bay Area here in San Francisco. It didn't matter where people stood on issues within the church or in society. Everyone wanted to worship and be left unharassed in worshiping. So it was very much of a unifying moment for us.
At the same time, I know it's hard to pick up habits, or it's easy to break habits sometimes and hard to pick them back up. That people who are in the practice of going to church, let's face it, Archbishop, when church gets canceled, for some, yes, they regret it, but they're also a little relieved. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes,
yes.
There are other things to do on Sunday. Forgive me, but you know what I mean. And I have seen, my sense is that there are some who were going to church and haven't found their way back yet.
I said this at the beginning of the lockdowns, when in our faith, it's an obligation to attend Mass on Sunday, but we dispensed that. And I said, your reaction to that is a good measure of where you're at with your faith. If you're sad because you can't go to worship, then you're in a good spot. But if you're relieved because you don't have to, then it's time to start building up your faith again. So it is a concern that some people have gotten out of the habit and maybe will not come back. Others, I think, have been strengthened because, that quirky human nature, you don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it. And so the more ardent faithful, I think, will be even stronger in their faith. The others, we need to be more inviting and welcoming, and we're coming up with strategies to try to be more inviting and be bringing people back to church on Sunday. All
right. Well, we're about to enter the weekend. Final thoughts? Anything you'd like to share, Archbishop? Anything I should have asked you that I haven't?
Thank you for asking that. I just want to say how grateful I am for so much support that I've gotten and our faith communities have had over these last several months, and we're very happy that we can be able to return to our churches for these holiest days of the year for us.
I thought of one more. If you had to say anything to Gavin Newsom, if Governor Newsom came to your church this weekend, what would you say to him?
I would say, look how safely we can worship. Look how important worship is, especially to our poor working class people who have been deprived of being connected with their faith and their faith community. We can do it safely, so leave us free to worship as is guaranteed by the First Amendment.
Last thing. Why did you become a priest?
Oh, wow. Do we have another 3 hours?
All right. Next time. All right.
So I was discerning what to do with my life. I knew I wanted to do something with my life that would not be selfish, but something to make the world a better place, something to serve other people. I was getting more spiritually serious, and I thought there could be no greater work than helping people get to heaven.
Yeah, it's the opposite of selfish. You went all in, and we're glad you did. Salvatore Cordileone, the Archbishop of San Francisco, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.